Got it. Thank you. Okay, so for the record, show that regular members Lynn Warner, Paul Yeaget, Ken Johnson, Ken Dietz, Marge Smith are here, along with our land use administrator Ty Kern and assistant Donna Hayes. And we've got somebody on 9859, not sure who that
I
is.
think that's
No,
Ken Dietz.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, thanks, Ken. It looks like we have Maria Grace from the NCLC here as well as Sam Sabin representing the applicant, correct?
Yep. Good evening. Hi.
All right, so we are in receipt of additional materials. First of all, Ty, was there anything else that we asked for that wasn't reflected?
No, we got everything, but I mean, a lot of it came in very last minute. So I don't know if you've checked the public drive, but the bond estimate is in there now.
Can you tell us how much that is?
It's a lot.
Just under
Came
84,000.
to $83,560.79.
That's kind of obvious. Okay, so it's kind of $85,000, let's call it,
Okay.
or 84,000. And what else in addition to the map material that shows where the silt fence will be?
They put photos of
Whoa.
the silt fence installed this weekend, are up in the public drive now. Those photos also show the area as not stabilized yet. So I don't know if maybe some hay or something should go down to kind of it seems awfully muddy back there. So
Yeah,
that probably could use a little bit of hay down, something to try to hold the earth material there
during
over the
storms.
winter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I got
then-
a question about that. I was looking at those pictures. Sam, how recently, well, I assume it's the silt fence had been replaced and put in, and the area that we were talking about looks like it's been recently stripped of the topsoil and whatever vegetation was in that area.
The silk, the Sam Sabin, for the record, representing the client. The silt fence was installed during the whole course of the project up until the point that we installed the boulder wall that's right behind that. So that came down probably 2 weeks ago, or probably more. Well, no, it's more than that. It's probably about a month and a half ago while they were working in that area. And so, that whole area was stripped prior. There was some boulders stockpiled back there that was removed from the site. But once we realized that we we're acting without a permit, and I submitted the application, I basically told the excavator to stop work at that point so that we can get this resolved before they come back in. So the intention is, once we have the permit in place and that we could get them back in there to spread that a little bit of top. He's got to screen that little bit of topsoil, spread the topsoil in the front, and get at least straw down. Seed is probably not going to take at this point, but at least get it stabilized, and then we'll come back in the spring and do overseeding.
Okay.
Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Is any of that area part of the planting plan?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying you come back in the spring, do all of that, we would have a bond.
Right.
And we would release it at the point that the work is done. Ty, are you comfortable that the bond estimate, and I apologize for not looking at it myself, covers the work that we want done or need done?
I mean, I guess it's a lot of plantings. If you're asking if I compared it, I mean, truly it just came in. So comparing it all to the plan, I did not do to see that everything on the plan was accounted for here. It's a lot.
One thing I'll point out is we do have some boxwood parterres that are kind of in the terrace, and those are big numbers of boxwoods. That's why that number goes. Boxwoods are very expensive plant if people are familiar with kind of nursery prices. So that's, I think, what drove what drove the cost of that up. But I wanted to include that whole area just because I know it's all part of that whole of that project. So I did just to point that out.
Marge, what do you think about that as a choice? The
Sorry, my
boxwood.
dog is barking at me. I muted myself.
It's okay.
What do you mean as a choice?
For the boxwood, an expensive choice. Is it a good choice? What we're trying to do is mitigate any, this additional hardscape and try to prevent runoff into the wetland area. And I guess I'm asking you for your perspective
On the cost or the choice of
on the
boxwood
choice of
themselves?
the choice of the material itself.
I think, I don't know. I've raced to get here. My head is just spinning.
Mm,
Boxwoods are good plants. I don't know why there'd be a problem with them, but
okay. Just I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You know more about plants than I do, so.
Could I, if I could just interject, would it be helpful to me, for me just to kind of show the planting plan, just to
It would
separate?
be.
Okay, let me go ahead. Can I just share the screen, Ty?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Can everybody see that my plan here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the boxwoods I was speaking of, there's this kind of like little pocket garden that's right off the plan. So I included all of the plants that were actually within this terrace, the kind of the foundation planting on the backside of the office. So that's the area that I was speaking of. These were non-natives. We actually all of this, what I'm calling kind of quote unquote buffer planting, is everything that's kind of beyond that wall to catch that storm, that surface drainage that's coming off. Everything that's from here all the way around is actually native. So things like we've got choke cherry, we've got alders, we've got shad blows and fatherhilla and elderberry, and I won't name them all, but the idea is that this whole area is kind of that native buffer. And then we have some kind of more landscape plants that are non-natives up against the house. I did get actually some feedback from Mary, where we had some non-natives actually along this section in there that I had that was left over kind of from the previous plan. I actually changed those to the native hydrangea and the native sedum just to be amenable to the the Conservation Commission. So that whole band is all native. It's anything that's non-native is kind of encapsulated within the terrace.
Okay, so that's Maria. Maria, are you still on?
I'm here and really only in an observation capacity. We submitted our letter saying that everything was in compliance.
Okay, good.
In terms of the conservation easement.
Okay, super. Because it does back right up against the easement in some places here.
Very, very close to the easement. I'd say that all those boulders are right on the easement line.
And you're feeling that with the planting plan, you're okay with that, is what it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you have any concerns or issues?
The only comment that we made in the email that we sent to Sam saying we were in compliance is that we were, as we'd like to see sort of like virgin stock and not necessarily all these cultivars that are being, like there's the Chinese witch hazel and we would recommend that we use more native, non-cultivar stock, but we didn't, that was our only suggestion. But other
Okay.
than that,
You mean in the planted areas that are more landscaped as opposed to the buffer area?
no, in the buffer area. So if you'll notice that there's a bunch of witch hazels that are
Right,
in the buffer planting plan, but they're not necessarily pure, Hamelinus virginiana stock. They're the, different cultivars.
So you're requesting that only native, and what are you calling it?
Non-cultivar.
Non-cultivar, okay.
So, but that was, but I mean, in terms of just complying with the terms of the conservation easement, everything that's presented to you as it is right now is all in compliance.
Okay. So Sam, do you have any kind of thought about that?
Yeah, I when I wasn't thinking it because I was just thinking in terms of witch hazels being native, but yeah, these are kind of these are not necessarily native in the cultivar sense. So if I'm amenable to that. They're very slight differences that in terms of the flower. They're definitely not spreading, but I'd be happy to utilize Virginiana as kind of in a big mass planting there. That's already what's out there too. So I think it would look appropriate if that would make the Land Conservancy even more comfortable with the planting.
Okay, so can you make that change on this plan and submit it to Ty?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
And
Right.
will that affect the bond amount in any way?
might bring
I
it back.
could I just from my experience, I don't think that it'll change the cost of the plant. No.
All right, so can you point out for us the silt fencing on this plan? Because I know it was on our blow up, but I can't really see it here. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Thank you.
So yeah, so this is the sorry, I'm having a trouble locating it myself. Oh, there it is. So silt, the SF there.
So just show with
comes-
your arrow, I see the
Yep.
silt fence with hay bale in
Yep,
two
down
places,
here,
and then
and
just
then
a
it
silt
comes-
fence.
silt fence here.
How far does it
Up.
go? Does it go? That's what was my question.
It goes up and follows the tree line. So here it comes in closer to the house, and then I
Can
have
you-
them come all. Sorry, just to
There we
over here.
go. There we go.
I had
Thank
them come all basically to somewhere right in here. I had them kind of circumvent around the edge of that clearing and then connect up with what was there previously.
All right,
So it
and
comes
just,
all the way up to here
and for how long will that remain?
until the
everything's-
site is stabilized. Yeah, planted and seeded and strawed and stabilized. Yes.
A-
Yep.
And does the bond include fixing the silt fence should it need it? Restabilizing the silt fence should it need it?
No, no, I just had the planting in there.
So then if you were to, okay, so I guess, Ty, it's a question for you. If the silt fence needs to be reestablished, we would
Right,
be
I
able
mean-
to, under the terms of the permit, request it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they're gonna have a temporary certificate of zoning compliance. So, I mean, by issuing this permit and just taking the bond, what the bond will do is if they fail to do the planting, then the bond gets called in 6 months and so, the town hires somebody to do it for them. As far as the silt fencing goes, I mean, I guess that's part of the standard practice
Yeah, and it's part of the
for
permit.
any construction, right? So
Right.
it's always required to be in place. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that you need to bond for something like that. Truly, you'd be in violation if you refuse to do best practices.
Right, right.
Yeah, I typically monitor the silt fence while I'm on site as well. I was just looking to see. I will have it in the general notes many times, but I don't see it here. As kind of the site contractor is responsible to maintain silt fence until the site is stabilized. I think that I believe that's in the application, but I can't say for sure. But typically
you
we
could
do
add
include in the
that.
notes.
You could add that
Sure.
in as
Yeah,
when you
absolutely,
make
yeah.
this change on the native species.
Not a problem. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I guess it's up. I'd like to hear from Paul or Ken Johnson or Ken Dietz or Marge. Any members of the commission and any other questions?
I have a question on this. There's a jagged line that goes roughly along the wetlands area. What is these jagged lines?
Yeah, Ken, yeah, that's what we diagrammatically show is kind of the edge of the forest canopy.
Oh, okay, I
Some
see.
people do get confused by that sometimes because it's a little unusual, but that's the kind of the existing edge of the clearing, and that's not going to be changed at all. No more trees are coming down.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, it
Any
looks
other
like
questions?
it's done.
This comparing, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ken. Ken
I was
Dietz
gonna say, it looks like
or whoever.
you've done a lot of, a pretty extensive area that to cover, but you've done a good job. It looks like it's all pretty well covered where erosion could occur.
Ken Dietz?
Yeah, where in the plan is the French drain? I see it in the key in the bottom left corner of this diagram, but I can't find it on the plan.
That was that was up along the road here. We
Oh,
had to
okay. It's
install
not really
all
what we're looking
install
at
them.
then. Okay.
Right.
Oh, all right. No, I mean, while we were everyone was conversing, I was checking the estimate against the planting plan in the application as it sits now, and everything that was there is in here, but if this is going to be revised, I guess that was a wasted effort, but
No, it's not wasted. I didn't hear everything that you
I
said, though.
couldn't hear you either, Ken.
oh, I'm sorry. I said while everyone was speaking, I was checking the planting plan per the diagram against the estimate, and everything that was in it as it sits now is in the estimate, the quantities of
Oh,
each.
good.
That is good
But
to
if
know.
that's going to be revised, then
It's not really going to be revised. It's just going to switch out a particular stock of witch hazel for
Right.
something more native. And Sam said it would not, he's made the statement that it won't affect the cost.
If any, nominal. I mean, yeah, they all grow about the same, and that's usually determines how about the same rate, and that usually determines how expensive they are.
So that's good. Okay, well, I guess my only comment would be that I'm not sure that we would have approved some of this hardscaping. I appreciate the amount of replanting that's going in to protect the wetland. And Sam, don't, I guess my request to you is that you come to the commission before, you always double check and compare what you're doing to what was approved, and come to the commission if there's a change before you make it.
Absolutely. Understood.
Well, I just want to say that I feel like we were backed into a corner with this to act quickly, and
I
I
agree.
don't appreciate that at all.
I don't either.
I wish we had more time to review this,
Yeah.
possibly a site walk, and preferably before any of the work had been done. I'm looking at these plans that were drawn up, and they were done back in October. And apparently they had enough time to do the work. They had to have these plans. So, I'm just disappointed that it came to this.
Well, we talked about, and I offered up the fact that we didn't need to have a special meeting or push this for the certificate of occupancy. You guys decide you wanted to go ahead. I agree with you 100%, Paul. So here we are.
So, I mean, just as a little bit of background, I understand that the owners have moved in. They don't have a CO from the building official, and I don't think that they're close to getting a CO. So there truly is time if you want to still do a site walk. I don't think that you're actually holding up anything by not, if you're feeling pressured right now, I don't feel like it's this commission that's holding up these people from getting in their house.
Well, at this point, I don't think that a site walk is going to change anything, because the work,
Done.
aside from the finishing touches, it's all been completed. So,
Okay, I just wanted to let you know that I wanted to have the full picture.
And I guess my question would be, we didn't issue a violation for this. Presumably because you talked with Sam and he immediately stopped work. Is that correct, Ty?
No, so I was not aware that this was transpiring until they actually came in for a certificate of zoning compliance. So like I said, I was out there in March and I had asked them to, reestablish their silk fencing and that kind of stuff. This happened without any notification, behind the house to, on the site. So Again, I think that what the driving force here is that certificate of zoning compliance.
Well, I mean, you're saying it's not really a driving force, number one. Number two, so I guess my question is,
For them
Sam,
to comply, for them to comply.
right, so
Right.
Sam, what did you do? Not look at the existing permit? I'm a little confused about how this happened to begin with.
Yeah, to be honest, I was kind of so ingrained at the or just kind of looking at the conservation easement line and protecting against that line that I didn't do an offset of the wetland flags that were on the survey. A lot of times surveyors will put that 100-foot upland review area. I'm not blaming the surveyor. I'm just saying that it was something that was not put, it was not, it was not cutting through the plan, where we were working. So it didn't come to the forefront of my mind. But that's, it was basically just kind of the focusing on that conservation easement as kind of being holding that line, and then not looking at the setbacks to the
Well, the conservation
flag.
easement is not relevant to the wetlands permit. It
Understood.
is, but it's not what our approval was for one thing and we ended up with something else.
Understood. I basically just didn't focus how close we were to the wetlands in that area. Knowing that the brook is only 86 feet, but still, I didn't. There was that upland review area. I just didn't investigate it enough to realize that area was within that upland review area.
So I'm still confused because we did give a permit, and you did have a site plan in that permit. So are you saying you did not look at that?
No, I reviewed the existing permit as that the house and driveway was within that, but honestly, I was focusing on the conservation easement line. It's not that I'm saying that had anything to do with in the wetlands. It's just it sidetracked me from the fact that back terrace was in that regulated area. And frankly, I lost my father, who was the leader of my company during that we started this project. Frankly, I didn't want to bring it up, but I was not in the right headspace, frankly. And this is something that we don't do normally. I usually do my due diligence with this. It's just, that's one of the big reasons why I didn't follow through on this.
You weren't as focused as you should have been. I do understand
That's
that.
right.
I
That's
lost
right.
my dad as well, so I do get how that does happen. Yeah. How does
Because honestly, I'm sorry to interrupt, Lynn, but honestly, I had months of time, honestly, to get this permit, which is why I'm kicking myself even more, because it's not like we were in a rush to get this done and get it, get them moved in. I had months while they were working on the home to get this done, which really, really kicking myself for, to say the least.
Okay, so any other thoughts, and how does the commission want to proceed at this point?
Well, I personally don't think that we can, we can't change the fact that the work a lot of it has been completed.
Well,
We can't change the
could.
fact.
We could.
Oh, what
The
are we
question
gonna
is, do you want to?
We're gonna say tear it out?
Yeah.
I don't think that's really fair. Like I said, I'm just disappointed that it came to this. We had plenty of time. I think Sam has explained his reasoning. It was an oversight, it was a mistake. I don't think we can punish them for that. Looking at it, it looks like they're trying to work within the guidelines that we've set as far as plantings and protecting the wetlands. So I think we just move forward with this. But,
Okay.
in the future, I think we Well, Sam, anyhow, you need to be more diligent, so.
No doubt about that. Absolutely.
Agreed. Anybody have any other thoughts besides the ones that Paul has so accurate and so well articulated?
I think that anytime we have a marginal activity going on in wetlands, we should have site walks lined up before this kind of activity goes
We
on.
typically do. Are you saying
Yeah.
you'd like to have a site walk before we go? Before we act on this or no?
Well, yes, before the groundbreaking occurs, I think.
Of course, that's our
We should
goal.
have, yes, I think the site walks would help a lot. I mean, these diagrams are good, but I mean, they're well drawn out and everything, but I don't think you can beat a site walk for, as far as, learning what's happening.
Ken, couldn't agree more with that. And we do typically schedule site walks on properties that we're not familiar with. In this instance, a site walk wouldn't have mattered unless we had gotten the application in a timely manner.
Yeah, that's true. I understand that. Yeah.
But I do
There
hear you.
well, there is a violation here, and he explained the reason for it, and I'm
Right.
willing to accept that explanation. And I'm sorry about his dad, but these things do happen, and
Yeah.
so I think let's just go forward with this thing.
Well, and I agree with that, but I think we've also been worried about setting a precedent for doing what we've just done.
Well,
So
yeah,
I'm
that's
glad,
not a-
this meeting is being recorded. I think our concerns about that will be part of the record so that people can't expect us to continue to do this in the future.
Right.
That's
I
a really
agree.
good point, Marge.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern.
I am
here.
definitely going on the record as to saying this should not have happened. It happened. We've got to move ahead, but we will not let somebody else do the same thing.
I think we are all saying that. Ken Dietz, I think I heard you saying that as well. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes, there's
think-
appearance-wise, there's no difference between the situation we're in now and the situation whereby someone chose to flagrantly disregard everything and come to us after the fact. We'd be staring at the same, the same situation on the ground.
Exactly.
And
We
having
do
to
not want to
decide
set
on-
up an act first and apologize second.
Mhm.
I think
Scenario.
And if the
I
fine
think
were
we
in
all-
place, I would say we should be imposing a fine on this because
Correct.
of what it
I
is,
agree.
but it's not. So
I agree. I think we're all on the
Just for that
same
reason.
page here.
Yeah.
So this is an unfortunate situation that we're in. We're trying to work with the applicant as this commission always does. I'm so proud of this commission for that. But we don't want to be in this position. This is not our normal operating procedure. Sam, we don't expect you to ever put us in this position again.
I was going to add that. Yep. It was a complete oversight in my part. I would never expect to go about a process this way ever again. That's definitely a learning point for me.
Okay, thanks for that. So
I mean,
my
that
question
said,
is, are we
if
ready?
if we were looking at this as it would have been on an original plan, I don't think that this is something we would have ultimately objected to the current situation. If this was, outside the circumstances by which we learned about this, if this is
Right.
a plan we were looking at, I think we would still approve this for the property, given the extensive
Plantings.
buffer planting.
Yeah.
And that's where, I base any decision on my part based on that.
Okay,
So,
thanks for sharing that. All right, so are we ready to take an action? And if so,
Yeah.
okay, can someone make a motion and we'll consider it?
I'm looking for the information. I'm happy to make a motion, but
It's
somebody else better do it.
I
the
don't
application.
have the application number in front of me. Whatever the application number is, I vote that, or I suggest that we approve it as it's now filed.
All right, before we make a motion and before we approve anything, we have all agreed on the amount for the bond? And when will that bond be posted?
Good question. And I think Ken Dietz told us that he reviewed it quickly and it seemed to encompass everything that was included in the plan.
Yeah, I was just looking at it.
Yeah,
Ty?
the descriptions and
generally-
quantities tie.
Okay,
So
thank you.
So generally, the way that this works is that if they want their certificate of zoning compliance, then they'll have to come forward with that bond. If they don't want their certificate of zoning compliance, then we can let this ride over the winter with the site being stabilized, and they can plant in the spring, and then we'll look for compliance in the spring.
So is the motion to include the bond of $84,000?
I don't think that it's your place to do that, respectfully. I think that it comes after the permit is approved.
Who's
And it gen-
authorizing it? What part of the town is asking for the bond, if it's not the Wetlands Commission?
It's in the zoning regulations, so in order to give a zoning compliance, the site needs to be stabilized and up to par with what the wetlands approved and the zoning commission approved.
I see.
So when they come forward and they look for zoning compliance, I go out there and I compare it to what was approved by wetlands as well as zoning. So in this case, you've got extra stuff that is just being approved now, that is not complete. So if they still want their zoning compliance, they're gonna have to come forward with a bond.
Yeah, but our wetlands approval is based upon the completion of all of the
Absolutely.
plantings.
Correct.
Right. So they will not get full compliance. They're gonna get temporary compliance with a bond saying that they need to finish the balance of it. So this happens usually not in this is an extreme circumstance, but this will happen sometimes when somebody finishes their project in the wintertime and it's not time to plant. And they can't stabilize and get everything in, and they say, we'd really like to get into our house. We'll plant in the spring. I mean, this is an entire huge project that's just being approved today. So it's a little bit unorthodox, but there's
Well,
no other way.
We have set bonds in the past.
Have you?
Yeah, and I'm not clear on why we can't make that a condition of our approval, but I understand what you're saying. Actually completing the project is what would prompt the zoning to issue a compliance. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't understand why the Wetlands Commission can't request a bond as part of its approval.
I guess I would have to look into that further. I'm not familiar with that process. Donna, are you familiar with that?
I never required any kind of bond from a wetlands application. In
And
the
we
amount of
certainly
time that I was
have.
doing it.
We have,
Bonded something, it was over on Lake Warramok.
yeah. I just don't remember exactly which application it was. It wasn't
It was
forestry, was
it
it?
was the trees, no, it was all the bushes and trees, the property.
That's right.
I can't remember the circumstances either, but that small property that's between,
Yeah,
one of the
'cause-
2 or 3 that are in
Yeah,
Kent
because they
was
put
the,
debris barriers in the water and everything, right?
Yeah, the old, now it's Springers, but before that it was Alt or something. They were putting the house on the market and they cut down all of the trees to increase the,
Right. Right.
sight lines. But I didn't know if we bonded for that or
I
not.
think we did, but maybe
So-
not.
Check
Maybe-
the file.
So I think that
Okay.
that sounds like a different circumstance, though. That sounds like
Yeah.
it was a violation. And it wasn't,
Yes,
it,
Yeah.
it sounds like a different, from what I'm hearing here is that it sounds like it was a different scenario where you
yeah,
weren't holding a certificate. They already had their compliance.
Right.
They
Yes.
they already had a CO and they did something that they shouldn't have done. And what
Right.
were they selling the house to somebody else?
Yeah.
And that's why it was transferring to a different owner, maybe it's a totally,
But the
Again,
bottom
I
line
don't-
is the Wetland Commission issued requested the bond. It doesn't matter which way we do it. It sounds like it doesn't matter because they will not get their zoning certificate unless the work gets done. But my question is at that point, who gets the fund? Who If the bond
Who
isn't
owns the bond?
posted, how does this
So the
actually?
the treasurer holds the bond, and what happens with it in 6 months, when it's a certificate of zoning compliance, it's only good for 6 months, and if they don't complete the work, then the bond is pulled and the town hires
But
somebody to do that work.
what prompts the bond to be held by the treasurer of the town? If it's not the Wetlands Commission, who requires that the bond be
The
posted?
CEO does in the zoning regulations.
So you do.
Right,
Okay, all right.
but
Okay.
again, this other method that you're talking about, I would have to go back and research. I don't know anything about it.
Okay. So but it doesn't really matter because the end result is the
Yeah.
same.
Right, I mean, it allows the owner for an option here, because if they decide they don't want to provide a bond, tomorrow to move it, they're actually already living in their house, so nothing is preventing, they're not supposed to be there, but I guess they're there. So if they decided they didn't want to come forward with this bond for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't know. We would have to issue a violation. Maybe Sam could offer some insight as to what's going on over there.
Yeah, the owner moved in against the builder's advisement, but regardless of them being there, they're very motivated to get this certificate of compliance. There's funding that's wrapped up with the certificate of occupancy. So there's they're very motivated to get that resolved.
Well, I'm sure it affects their insurance as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, so Ty, does it make sense for our approval to include a bond for completion of, should the work not be completed? Or not?
I don't think it could hurt if you mention the bond, or that you acknowledge the fact that this is the amount and you've reviewed it. I don't think it could hurt.
That makes sense. I mean, if the CEO is the one that to do the bond, I don't think there's any reason for us to try to do that, but we should somehow word it that we acknowledge that the bond is there.
Is
I don't-
zoning going to look at the conditions of our approval?
I always look at the conditions of every one of your approvals when I go out for certificate of zoning compliance.
Okay,
That's
but is
one of
it
my
still-
major things.
But is it still solely up to you to make sure that that bond is collected or enforced? Well, collected, posted.
Well,
Right, I would never issue a certificate of
this?
zoning compliance or temporary zoning compliance without either this work being completed or a bond in place to make sure it does get completed.
Okay,
That sounds good. I'm
I'm
okay.
satisfied with that.
I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
Me too. Okay. So with that, are there any other questions about the application for Sam or the process for Ty?
No,
Okay,
Do we
so
have an application number for this?
yes, Ty has it.
1333-23.
Okay, therefore I'll make a motion to accept and approve the noted application subject to the
requirement for a bond.
okay, I'll go with that requirement for a bond to be posted for completion in the spring.
That sounds good. Ty, is that okay?
For completion
For completion in the spring, he said. It's within 6 months after the temporary zoning certificate of compliance is issued.
Okay, so
We could say that.
rephrase that instead of saying in the spring, within 6 months.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Marge. Any further discussion on this? Questions, concerns, clarifications? Okay, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Abstention? Okay, I really want to thank the commission for its for all of your care and understanding in this issue. And Sam, enough said, right?
Absolutely. No, I want to thank everybody for their time and coming together for the special meeting, and hope to see you all again soon with a proper application moving forward.
That'd be good,
Thanks,
Sam. All right, everybody, if I don't see you, happy holidays and enjoy
Well,
the
we have
rest of
another
the-
meeting coming up.
Oh, that's right, right in the middle, right in the middle of those darn holidays. Okay.
And just a little reminder that town meeting is this Wednesday, if you guys want to go
Yep.
down there and vote.
That's an in-person, right?
It is in person,
I'll be
Okay,
there.
what time's the town meeting?
7 o'clock.
7.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to adjourn this meeting?
We do, we need a motion.
So moved.
I move that we adjourn this meeting this evening.
March 2nd, okay. Thank you all.
Good night,
All right.
guys.
Good
See you
night.
soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, all.